You've spent most of your life trying to be enough for people who barely knew how to value you. You learned to shrink yourself long before you understood why. And now, even as an adult, no matter what you do, a part of you still worries it's not enough. It's not that you aren't capable, or that you haven't tried. It's that somewhere along the way, you learned a lie about yourself. And that lie sounded like this: if I can just be better, maybe then I'll be loved. That belief didn't appear out of nowhere. You learned it, you absorbed it, you were trained into it. And if you're honest, you can't even remember a version of you that didn't feel this way. Feeling not enough isn't a personality trait, it's a wound. And like all wounds, it began somewhere. So, before we talk about how to heal it, we need to go back to where you first learned to question your worth. Most people assume their self-worth is something they were born with, but that's not how it works. You weren't born doubting yourself. You learned to. And you didn't learn it alone. Someone or something taught you. Maybe it was a parent whose love felt inconsistent or only available when you behaved, impressed, or achieved. Maybe it was a teacher, a friend, a sibling, or a moment that made you feel small for simply being yourself. Whatever the source was, the message landed, and it sounded like, be better or you don't get love. That message became a rule you carried into adulthood without ever realizing it. And now, you measure your worth the same way you were taught to as a child, by performance, perfection, or approval. The reason this matters is simple. A belief you didn't choose has been choosing the life you settle for. And before you can step into who you really are, you need to understand how this belief was planted in you. Let's go back to the beginning, to the version of you who was still whole, open, and unafraid to take up space. As a child, you didn't analyze your worth. You lived it. You laughed loudly, asked for what you wanted, expressed every emotion fully. But children are observant. Long before they understand language, they understand approval. You watch the people you depended on. You learned what made them smile and what made them withdraw. Maybe you noticed that you got love when you were good, but distance when you were sad, messy, or too much. So you adapted. You became the version of yourself that kept the peace, earned approval, or stayed invisible. Not because anyone told you to, but because you believed it was the only way to feel safe. And when a child has to earn love, they grow up believing they must earn their worth. That belief became the blueprint for your relationship with yourself. And unless it's questioned, that blueprint becomes the home you live in your entire life. You didn't outgrow the belief that love must be earned. You refined it. You became an adult who performs for worth instead of receiving it. Now you call it being hard on yourself, not settling or having high standards, but look closer. You don't chase excellence, you run from inadequacy. And it shows up everywhere. In your work, your relationships, your silence, your overthinking. You over-prepare, over-apologize, overthink, overgive. Because part of you still believes that who you are isn't quite enough on its own. You apologize for things that don't require apology. You take blame that isn't yours. You accept less than you deserve, just to avoid feeling like a burden. And the praise you do receive, you don't trust it. It feels like they're praising a version of you that isn't real. So you keep the mask on, the competent one, the strong one, the "I'm fine, don't worry about me" one. And the more people see you as capable, the harder it becomes to admit you're tired of proving yourself. That's the trap. The world thinks you're confident, but inside, you're still that child, quietly asking, is this enough? Am I enough? Here's the part you've never been told. Feeling not enough has nothing to do with who you are, and everything to do with what you were taught. The voice that says you're not enough was never yours. It was someone else's pain, handed down to you. Children don't question adults. They assume adults are telling the truth. And if the truth seems to be that you're too loud, too emotional, too sensitive, you believe it. But that truth wasn't truth. It was their fear, their stress, their limitations, their inability to love themselves. You were never too much. They were simply too overwhelmed. You were never too sensitive. They were simply too numb. You were never hard to love. They were simply struggling to love themselves. And now, you carry their struggle as if it's your identity. But that weight was never yours to carry. If no one taught you how to feel enough, how could you possibly know how? Lack of guidance isn't lack of worth, it's lack of teaching. You've spent years blaming yourself for wounds you didn't create. But awareness is the moment the wound stops being invisible. Healing the belief that you're not enough isn't about becoming more. It's about finally seeing the truth of who you already are. The first step is recognition. You can't change a belief you can't see. Awareness turns autopilot into choice. The second step is noticing when the old belief shows up. It often sounds like pressure, guilt, comparison, or fear of disappointing others. When you hear the voice that says, "Try harder," remember, that voice is memorized survival, not truth. The third step is allowing yourself to be seen as you are, not just as you perform. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That's because you're breaking the rule that once kept you safe. The fourth step is setting boundaries around your energy. You are not required to hold everyone's approval. And the final step is redefining worth. Worth is not earned. Worth is not proven. Worth is not measured by output, perfection, or praise. Worth is inherent. It's not something you chase. It's something you remember. You don't become enough by changing yourself. You become enough by recognizing you always were. You are not broken for wanting to be enough. It means you were never given the chance to feel it. The truth is this: you were not born asking for permission to exist. Someone taught you to question yourself, and you've been asking the world for answers ever since. But worth isn't found by searching, it's found by remembering. So when you hear the old voice whisper, "You should be more," and ask yourself, "Who taught me that?" That question breaks the spell. It returns the belief to its origin. Healing isn't becoming different. It's returning to the parts of you that were buried under fear. The moment you see this clearly, you stop performing. You stop apologizing. You stop shrinking. Not because you suddenly became better, but because you finally stopped believing the lie. You are enough, not because you proved it, but because you exist. And if no one ever told you that, then hear it now. You are worthy of love as you are. If this brought clarity, sit with it for a moment. Notice the parts of you that reacted. Those are the places still asking to be seen. You don't have to earn your place in this world. You already have one. When you're ready, there's more to learn about the beliefs that shape your life.